Now at 5, the Carl Junction School District hires 40 new teachers for the upcoming school year. Plus, the Joplin Police Department brings in 2 new members to their force, and
a new nation is officially being added to the NATO alliance, but it's not Ukraine. I'm Skyler Henry with a look at what member nations say needs to happen before Ukraine can join.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
As the beginning of the school year gets closer, districts in the area gear up, and hiring teachers is an essential part of the process. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. In Carl Junction, for example, 39 new teachers are already hired, and 2 other positions are still open. In total, Carl Junction schools have about 400 teachers who serve more than 3,200 students. Some of the new hires are already familiar with the area.
I graduated from there, and it's always just been a dream to come back and work from the place I graduated from. I always loved the teachers. They have such a great work ethic there, and so I wanted to be a part of that growth and how it all is there.
Across this state, people are seeing that there's a need for quality educators. Fortunately, I think we've been very fortunate in that we've had quality applicants to fill all of our positions.
The hiring process for Carl Junction schools started at the beginning of last semester. The new hires went through a training last month and will go back to school 2 weeks before the students. Tonight at 6, we're going to learn more about Lexi's relationship with the district and meet another new hire. The auction for the historic Reddings Mill Inn has been postponed. It was originally scheduled for today. The public will still have a chance to own a piece of history. The auction is going to include several pieces of furniture and appliances, as well as the historic building. It's been rescheduled for July 18th at 10 a.m. at the Newton County Courthouse in Neosho. The Joplin Police Department welcomed 2 new members to their team. The JPD introduced 2 new canine units, Vice and KOAM. Their handlers gave live demonstrations to show how they're going to be used. Those demonstrations included apprehensions and narcotic searches. The dogs are also trained in building clearing, tracking, and obedience.
You don't want them letting go of a bite and rebiting over and over again. So we want them to keep strong on that single bite, that first bite. So that's what he was doing there. They shouldn't show that someone fighting them shouldn't really affect them based on how we train. So that's what he's doing there. It doesn't really affect him if someone's fighting him. He's gonna keep that bite.
Canines underwent a 6-week training process before they were certified for police work. The dogs and their handlers will continue to train every week in order to maintain their skills. Let's check in with meteorologist Sam Lane for a first look at the weather.
Well, we are heading into the dog days of summer, that's for sure, with lots of heat to go around for everyone, including tomorrow. So we have an alert day in effect for tomorrow. This evening is going to be pretty warm too, with temperatures dropping through the 90s into the 80s to about 74 degrees by tomorrow morning. And your UV index for tomorrow, it's going to be extreme. It's going to be 11 on the scale, which on the scale of 0 to 12, which means burn time is going to be less than 15 minutes. So definitely make sure you have the hat, the sunglasses, the sun green. Find some shade and also limit your time outdoors. Also be sure to make sure that there's plenty of water for your pets if they're outside, and also check on the elderly as they're a little bit more susceptible to the heat. Looking down the lane, we do have the alert day tomorrow for the Wednesday heat. Then we go into an unsettled pattern with maybe a little bit of a drought relief, and then we go right back into the furnace as we head through the rest of the forecast. And of course, I'll have all the details in just a bit.
Catch you then. The Georgia grand jury handling potential indictments against former President Donald Trump has been selected and sworn in. Took 3 hours to choose the Atlanta area panel. Mr. Trump is accused of trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in that state. Fulton County's district attorney launched the investigation in early 2021. A special grand jury has already issued a redacted report with charging recommendations. Ukraine's president today argued that his country will make NATO stronger, while expressing disappointment the military alliance is not already ready to extend a member invitation to Ukraine. President Biden is among the Western state leaders at the national summit, the NATO summit in Lithuania, where it was announced that Sweden will become the newest nation to join. Skyler Henry reports.
Thanks Lithuania, thank you very much.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky pressed his case for joining NATO in Lithuania Tuesday, telling a pro-Ukrainian crowd Ukraine will make NATO stronger. Earlier, he blasted the military alliance for not setting a timetable for his country to join, calling it absurd.
We will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when allies agree and conditions are met.
The head of NATO told reporters member nations agreed to change Ukraine's membership path from 2 steps to 1, but isn't going further right now because of Russia's war.
When a war is going on, that's not the time for making Ukraine a full member of the alliance.
The summit kicked off with applause for Sweden's bid to join NATO. The membership breakthrough came after Turkey dropped its objections. President Biden hailed the development in a meeting with his Turkish counterpart.
Thank you for your diplomacy and your courage to take that on.
Turkey's president didn't speak publicly about reversing course on Sweden, but the change is thought to be tied to Turkey's efforts to buy American F-16 fighter jets and join the European Union. The White House has expressed support for both. Sweden is following Finland into the alliance, and the Biden administration says the 2 additions send a signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin that his war in Ukraine has united the West against him. But a Kremlin spokesperson says it's NATO's expansion that in part led to the current situation. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
President Biden is scheduled to meet with Ukraine's president at the summit tomorrow. Still ahead, filtering the best from the worst.
How effective is your water filter at removing potentially harmful chemicals? I'm Willie James Inman with the results of a new report.
And next in Health Watch, a new study shows how ADHD medication could be affecting your child. Topping today's Health Watch, 5-year-olds are a few months behind in development due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Researchers in Japan looked at kids who grew from 3 to 5 years old during the pandemic and found they were about 4 months behind in physical, language, and social skills. The study did not find the same negative results for children who grew from 1 to 3 years old. More than a quarter of children in the U.S. missed a doctor's appointment during the pandemic. Researchers at the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy in St. Louis found older children were more likely to have missed preventative care, as were kids in households with a higher number of children. Asian or Pacific Islander, Hispanic, and multiracial groups also missed out more on those care visits. Millions of American children have been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and families often struggle with decisions about treatment. Well, a new study might add some useful research. Reporter Michael George has more.
For children who suffer from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, medication is often the first line of treatment. But families coping with ADHD are sometimes hesitant to use those prescription stimulants out of fear they could lay the groundwork for future substance use. A study published in JAMA Psychiatry may provide some helpful results. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine tracked nearly 600 patients over a 16-year period. They found childhood use of prescription stimulants was not linked to harmful substance use or substance use disorders as those patients became adolescents or young adults. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects millions of children in the U.S. It can cause inattention, hyperactivity, or impulsive behavior. The disorder can affect a patient's day-to-day functioning and is managed through both medication and behavior therapy. Doctors say ADHD is a chronic condition that should be monitored throughout a person's life. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
According to the CDC, about 6 million children ages 3 to 17 are diagnosed with ADHD. Women working for 10 years or more as a hairdresser or similar roles are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Women in construction carry a similar risk, and surprisingly, accountants have about double the risk. According to a study in the journal Occupational Environmental Medicine, the risk comes with prolonged exposure to up to 18 different agents such as talcum powder, ammonia, and hydrogen peroxide. That is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, the PGA's partnership with Live Golf sparks controversy with Senate lawmakers.
And we are tracking the heat across our area. I'll be back to tell you what that means in our forecast, as well as rain chances, so you don't want to miss that. Well, the heat has come back, but it's nothing compared to what's going to be on tap for tomorrow. So let's enjoy this evening as much as we can. Beautiful sky there at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside of Seneca, Missouri. Just a few thin cumulus clouds out there, but that's about it. Mostly fair conditions across our entire area. We made it up to 94 today, which was 4 degrees above the normal of 90, and the low was 71, which is pretty on target. The normal low is 70, but look at the rainfall. We're almost 10 inches now behind on rainfall just for this year, and we desperately need some. Unfortunately, most of the rain today has been down to the south. You can kind of see a little bit of a spin here in western Arkansas. That's the remnants of a mesoscale convective complex that rolled across Oklahoma last night, giving them quite a bit of rain. Now we just have a few showers around Huntsville, Arkansas, and that is about it. As a result, Bella Vista is one of the coolest readings at 88, but check out Chanute. They're already 95 right now. Same thing in Yates Center. Meanwhile, it's in the 90s pretty much everywhere else with southeasterly winds. But the dew points are on the increase as well. Look at the dew points now, 75 in Nowata. That's very oppressive. Now we're seeing dew points in the mid-60s, even 70 degrees up in Fort Scott. And it's the combination of the temperature and the dew point that's going to aggravate the heat index for tomorrow. This is just an ugly map. Look at this, 115 in Independence and Fredonia tomorrow afternoon. That's what it's going to feel like. 109 in Joplin, 107 in Nevada. Just pretty much ugly across the entire area. And then on Thursday, it could repeat. Not as bad, but still it's going to feel like it's over 100 across most of the area, even on Thursday. Rain chances are going to be low for tonight, and then tomorrow they'll pick up a little bit, especially tomorrow night into Thursday morning. That's when the rain chances are going to start to increase. And it's all because we have these little systems that are coming down off the Rocky Mountains in northwest flow in the overnight hours. And then as they come by, they generate these showers and thunderstorms, and that's why we're looking at the rain chances mainly being overnight in the morning. Here's one of the models. This is the GFS model. It's forecasting, and oh, this would be great if this verified, with temperatures, well actually with rainfall amounts over 2 inches in some isolated spots. However, some areas you notice, like Lamar, only 1/4 of an inch. So it's going to be very varied across the area. And when you look at the European, it's not as excited about the rain chances. So right now, it's just going to be a scattering of showers and thunderstorms with the possibility of severe weather tomorrow as well across most of the area, basically from Grove north and eastward. And most of the risk is going to be large hail and high winds. There is a small risk of tornadoes and heavy rain, but again, I think the biggest threat is the hail and the wind. Temperatures tonight are going to be very mild, generally in the mid to upper 70s across the area. Then as we go through tomorrow afternoon, temperatures right around 100 degrees with scattered thunderstorms possible. And I know that looks overstated, but we're going to see them scattered around. And then as we go into Thursday, lows in the 70s and a better chance of storms, I think, Thursday night into Friday morning as that sweeps in from northwest to southeast across the area with lows in the 70s on Friday. Here's the forecast for the next 7 days. An alert day tomorrow with a high of 100. Then a possible alert day on Thursday with a high of 97. And then the storms possible again on Saturday and cooler, if you want to call upper 80s cooler Dow. And then as we head into next week, it starts to go right back into the furnace. So we have bookend 100-degree days there.
You have said this before, but it's not only uncomfortable, it is potentially dangerous, particularly for the elderly or people with health conditions. People need to be on their toes.
Stay indoors if you can.
Good advice. Thanks, Anna. Heat, in fact, kills more Americans than any other weather-related disaster. Now, the Biden administration says they're going to take new actions to officially warn people about heat-related dangers. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is going to use $5 million of federal money to create 2 new virtual research centers. Those will help underserved communities around the U.S. better understand and prepare for extreme heat. Scorching hot temperatures in Florida, people flocking to the beaches to cool off, but they're not finding much relief. That's because ocean temperatures are rising. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, reports the water temperature at one of its buoys near Key Largo reached close to 97 degrees last night. That's little relief when the air temperature is only about 10 degrees warmer.
I feel as if the water was pretty cold all the time. Like even in the summer on like some of the hottest days, you still would step into the ocean and feel like, whew, and get that it's pretty cold, but now it feels kind of like a heated pool.
Meteorologists say the ocean temperature is about 4 to 5 degrees warmer than normal across the Gulf of Mexico and Southwest Atlantic, so people don't really feel cooler when they step into the surf, only wetter. Coming up, potential toxins could be found in your tap water, how choosing the right filter could protect you. Topping today's Consumer Watch, lawmakers are accusing the Saudi Arabian government of sports washing its human rights abuses with large investments in popular sports, including that planned merger between the Saudi-backed Live Golf and the PGA. PGA executives testified the sport faced an existential threat in its previous standoff with Live. Some families of 9/11 victims attended the hearing. They've said they're shocked and offended by the planned merger. The PGA has committed to meeting with 9/11 families, and executives say the merger is not a done deal. Microsoft could finalize a deal with video game giant Activision Blizzard in the next few days. A federal judge's ruling paves the way for the $69 billion deal. Comes just ahead of the July 18th contractual deadline. The FTC argues Microsoft could withhold popular titles like Call of Duty from rival platforms like Sony PlayStation. A district court judge in Northern California says the government has not shown that outcome is likely. Bank of America is accused of double dipping on fees, withholding credit card rewards, and opening fake accounts. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau ordered the company to pay more than $100 million to customers and $90 million in penalties. Another regulatory body also ordered Bank of America to pay $60 million in fines. A recent study from the U.S. Geological Survey found nearly half of our country's tap water could be contaminated with potentially toxic compounds known as PFAS. A new report looked at which water filters can block the chemicals, and reporter Willie James Inman has the results.
The Environmental Working Group tested 10 water pitchers and found some of the most well-known are not effective at fully filtering out PFAS. The so-called forever chemicals used in products like nonstick cookware, stain-resistant carpets, and cosmetics have been linked to an increased risk for a number of health problems.
Cancer, disruptions in the immune system, developmental delays in children, fertility problems, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure, to name a few.
EWG Senior Science Analyst Sydney Evans says 3 of the filters tested stood above the rest.
They actually reduced PFAS down to non-detectable levels, which is really great. We weren't really expecting to see that.
In the study, pitchers from Clearly Filtered and Zero Water blocked 100% of PFAS tested. So did the Standing Travel Berkey filter system. The Epic Pure pitcher was close, blocking 98% of PFAS.
For these pitchers to work properly, you need to consistently change out the filter, and buying those new filters can add up.
The Travel Berkey sells for $327, but the filter lasts 8 years. The other recommended pitchers have a lower upfront price, but changing the filters can cost hundreds of dollars a year. For a full year's use, Epic has the lowest price.
It was really easy to set up the filter. It flows through pretty quick. It's a decent size, so you don't have to refill it that much.
The Environmental Protection Agency is now considering new rules that would restrict the amount of PFAS in tap water. Evans says until then, these filters can help reduce your exposure. Willie James Inman, CBS News, Washington.
Final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, how scammers are using AI to replicate your voice. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on how school districts around the area are hiring new teachers, including dozens in CJ. Plus, 2 children are found dead after being swept away in a lake near Oklahoma City. And a former Crowder College baseball star is drafted to the big leagues. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Unfortunately, you know the forecast. It's hot and it's going to be hot for a while.
That's right. We have a heat alert in effect for tomorrow, so we're going to call it an alert day. Possible on Thursday as well, but at least we have storm chances in our forecast too, cooling us down a little bit as we head towards the weekend. But then guess what? The heat comes right back next week. But of course, you know now it is July, so.
That's true. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. We'll see you at 6. Let's make it a great evening.